This is Joe Peters from MomFit with Joe Peters. Welcome to the Spanglish Network and the Her Network at Singo TV channels 250 and 251. Please remember to download the Singo TV app on the respective app stores on iOS and Android devices. While you are downloaded, make sure that you rate and leave a comment. The app is free. Singo TV is available in Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire Stick, Roku, and Roku TV Stick since 2016 in all the smart TVs. Welcome to this episode of MomFit with Joe Peters. We are going to be having a lot of fun with our beautiful guest today. And I want to tell you a little bit about why she is amazing. Nichole Catalano-Miller is one of those souls that dedicate her life to not only learn, but also take everything that she learned and then put it out in the world and make the world a better place. She's also the mom of four beautiful boys, five because her husband is amazing. So she's the queen of her house around five beautiful male souls, and she is a health and wellness coach. She is a nutritional health coach. She is a yoga teacher, and inside that yoga teacher, she is a yoga teacher for wall teacher, for aerial teacher, for prenatal, for postnatal. That we were talking about a conversation like this, we were actually thinking about how much time and energy she put in all the knowledge that she had. And even when it was a little harder to put the time set point, we actually start talking that she invests in herself and her knowledge over $250,000 throughout her life to gain knowledge, to travel, to learn from different masters and teachers and coaches and mentors. And I am really happy to have her here because she is one of those leaders in that part of motherhood where we need to actually get rid of all the bullshit of what motherhood is. And she is been embracing her motherhood journey and helping moms around her to actually try to go from a stress into blessed. So Nichole, thank you so much for being here. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Oh, thank you, Joanna. That was such a beautiful, generous introduction.
Nichole, why we don't start with you sharing a little bit about who you are and your journey, a little bit of how your journey start and how why you are so passionate about what you do.
I have been in the world of yoga and wellness and health for over 20 years. I started out as a science nerd, studying biology and pre-med, and then moving into nursing, and finally getting my degree in exercise physiology. Well, a combination actually of exercise physiology, health psychology, and health promotion. And during that time, I also dove deep into the world of holistic wellness, learning about Ayurveda and becoming a yoga teacher, a senior level yoga teacher, and meditation. And so I really began my journey actually with an injury that kind of knocked me on my tush, and realized that Western medicine is amazing and has so much benefit for all of us, but it didn't take care of the whole picture as a human being. And so when that happened, I made it my mission to learn about what really makes us healthy and well-rounded people, what can make our life worth living. And so that's become my mission, is to learn about that and to help other people implement really healthy lifestyles for themselves, so that they can really speak to all parts of who they are.
And I love what you're saying because I hear this and I remember from where, but I heard it once and resonated so much with me and so like Western medicine is wonderful and needed in a reactive way when you are in a life-threatening situation. Like if you broke your bone, yes, you need a Western medicine person to call the cast. If you were in a car accident and you're bleeding out, if you need some of that reactive, like Western medicine is a lot into that reaction of fixing, That when we want to do a little bit more of a preventive situation, when we want to actually do a, like you say, a whole picture, holistic approach of who you are, then we start getting short with the approach in the Western medicine, and is when we need to expand into some of those ancient wisdom that we have for millennia of all these cultures around the world. So I love that. Tell me a little bit about. I want to talk about so many things, but the first, your phrase. Every guest had a phrase, and I want to start the show with that phrase because one of the challenges things for us as moms, I think, is balancing that amazing love and gratitude that we have for our babies, our child, and then also that guilt that sometimes we feel when we are not feeling completely happy, and when we are stressed, and when we get in the red zone and yell or explode. And your phrase is very powerful because your phrase says, the phrase that you love says, what we appreciate appreciates. So let's gonna talk a little bit about how we can use as moms, new moms, mom to be's, and even moms of several babies and kids. That beautiful phrase, what we appreciate appreciates.
Mm. Yeah, so really that phrase speaks to this idea that what we focus on tends to be what we're putting all of our energy toward. And when we're focusing on the problem, when we're focusing on something that's going wrong, all of our energy is going toward that. And what we lose in that process is the ability to build on our strengths, to utilize what's going right in our lives, which is really so much. It's so much. we lose our ability to stay in touch with that because we're so focused on the problem. And so, what I like to do is to think about how we can take a strengths-based approach um, toward creating a holistic lifestyle for ourselves. You know, when we encounter a problem, yes, we need to be reactive. We need to react to an issue that comes up, but we also need to be proactive, right? We want to be present with what's happening in our lives, and we want to stay in touch with all those things that feed us and give us nourishment and energy and joy. And when we do that, then we have that overflow to be able to react appropriately to the snags that we and obstacles we come across in our lives.
And why you don't just go a little deeper with that and give me an example? Because um, sometimes, like, and even not even an example, but maybe a tool that you use and that you maybe use with your clients that says, okay, because when we are outside the storm,
Yeah.
sometimes it's very easy for us to connect the dots and say, yeah, I need to appreciate, and then that be able to help me to fix whatever is happening, react to whatever is happening. But how we can remember that and actually apply that when we are in the middle of the storm, when we are in the middle of the sleep deprived nights, in the middle of the first weeks of the baby being born, on the middle of the things that nobody prepared us for in motherhood.
The stuff nobody talks about.
Yes.
Right. Well, all that tough stuff is real. Oh my gosh. And one of the things that we need to do as mothers is to be able to learn how to take a step back. So I won't lie here. I'll take an example right from my own life. There have been days I have locked myself in my bathroom, right? Just lock the door just so that I can take 2 minutes and breathe, right? Let my nervous system calm down first. And really that's probably the most important thing for us to do, is to be able to have a toolkit where we can take our reactivity, right? That sympathetic stress response, and be able to downshift it. So one of the really easy things that we all can do is breathe. And we're doing it anyway. So if we add some intention to it, if we start to lengthen out our exhales, right? Closing our eyes and if you do that just for a moment, you can already feel that your nervous system starts to downregulate. And one of the things that I think that we don't realize is that when we're having a stress response, when we're in sympathetic drive with the nervous system, that really that shuts off our ability to think clearly, right? The body prioritizes that stress response. It says, hey, get away, run, fight, get angry, explode, do something. It prioritizes that over our ability to think, right? And to utilize our executive functioning skills. So one of the things I like to work with our moms and just really anybody who's having a stress response is finding that pause. So realizing, oh gosh, I'm really feeling overwhelmed, I'm feeling upset, I'm feeling angry, noticing that, pausing, and breathing, taking that moment. And once you have that gap, and once the nervous system has been downregulated a bit, then we start to realize, okay, I have some choice here. I have choices in how I react.
Yeah, I love that. And
That's
I
really,
love, go ahead.
that's a perfect tool to use right in the moment. That's when you're like, I mean, I've got 4 little boys. It's like a frat house in my home sometimes. Pizza boxes flying, furniture overturned, people running in circles. So I do that breathing a lot.
And I love that because first, it's a very good tool. And I want to go back into a couple of things that Nichole said that are very important. The first one is knowing that it's okay to lock yourself in the bathroom or the closet, and that doesn't make you a bad mom, and that doesn't make that you are failing, and that doesn't mean that you are doing something wrong. Because the reality is, and this is something that I've been talking a lot in social media, and is we don't see the moms when they are locked in the bathroom or the closet. The only thing that we are able to see is the moms just holding their babies and being happy, and everything is rainbows and butterflies. So when we compare the top of their iceberg with our entire iceberg, and we feel I need to go into the bathroom and lock myself for 2 minutes, then we don't have any comparison on anybody around us that make us feel that that is okay because they did it too. Because like Nichole was saying, nobody talk about it. So but part of our job in MomFit, and part of my job and the job of the guests, because I find guests that are aligned with my value, is normalize motherhood. Normalize that you never can pick the top of the iceberg of somebody else with the entire iceberg. I actually make a reel like last week about the first picture is me completely handstand with my hands, with my legs completely spread. And that is what you see in social media. That is the motherhood picture that you see in social media. And then the next one was a reel how I had to put my feet against the wall and turn around. And it actually was a process with a lot of assistance to get there. But if you only see the picture, you're like, oh my gosh, she's such a badass. I will never be able to do that. Yes, if you did exactly everything that I did, you and everybody will do it. So that is the first one, is it is okay. And it is okay for you to take some time. The second one is that we have been talking so much about the breathing, is how powerful breathing is. And I'm gonna go deep into the fire and fire response with you, Nichole, because I know that you are a geek nerd and love that. And so mamas can actually learn from why that is important, not only in the moment, but also in the future and for the future of their babies. But then the third one that I love that she said is, I don't know if you pay attention, but she say, I am feeling angry. I am feeling overwhelmed. I don't know if you remember in one of the other episodes how different it is when we are saying I am feeling and stay the feeling versus I am. So it's not taking ownership of the feeling, I am this feeling, but it's saying, hey, right now I am feeling this. So I love all that. Thank you, Nichole, for that nugget of wisdom. Let's gonna talk a little bit about that fire and fire response and that
It's a tongue twister, isn't it?
it is. You know what I mean. And why is important that we understand how our brain works. and how that reactions in our brain are actually not only impacting us and our babies right now, but also impacting the brains and the emotional skills of our babies in the future. Why that's important?
Oh, well, primarily I'm a big believer that as we have information, it gives us choice, right? And so it's important to understand this because when we do, we are given the opportunity to work with it, right? Instead of just being overwhelmed by the shifts in our emotions and the shifts in our physical responses to situations, we can actually have some choice in it. Um, when we're talking about this stress response, you want to think about a continuum, right? So we're on a line here, and we kind of through the day, we're a little bit more activated at some points, and we're a little bit more downregulated at some points, right? So we get activated, and that's the sympathetic system taking over. That's our stress response. You could call it on the far end, right? Our fight or flight response. Um, but it's also just the part of us that helps us sit up in the morning and get moving and get going. So it rolls, right? And the other side of that continuum, we have the down regulation. We have our starting to relax and calm down. And on the far end of that, we have our shutdown all the way, right? So we want to be able to navigate and utilize that whole spectrum appropriately. When we think about the stress response, right? That's our body's that's one of the ways our body keeps us well, right? We utilize that stress response in order to react appropriately to situations that call for immediate action, that are dangerous, that are threatening in some way, right? So when we move in that stress response, I like to first tell people, like, hey, first of all, it's there to help you. It is totally appropriate to have that response sometimes. And in fact, you want it to happen sometimes, right? We don't want to be on a sinking ship and go like, I'm going to take a nap, right? We want to be able to go, no, jumping into action. I'm going to do something. So it's there for a reason, right? But what we don't want to be doing is continually staying in that stress response, right? So we want to be able to learn tools to move us along the continuum. The other thing I like to remind people is that when we have a stress response, again, those higher areas of the brain, the ones that have us think through things, they turn off. And so that sensation that you get when you're super pissed or when you're really activated, when you're feeling overwhelmed, that feeling of like, I can't think through this. I just, that's real. You really aren't thinking through anything. You really aren't. And so what we learn how to do is instead of thinking through it, we learn how to just feel into that signal and say, okay, this is where I take my time out. Okay, this is where I run to my bathroom. This is where I run to my closet. This is where I walk into the other room, set the baby in a playpen or a safe place, hand the baby off to someone, and I walk into the other room and I learn to move myself toward that parasympathetic state, that calming state. When we're in that calming state, that's where we can actually feel deeper connection with other people. Our connective responses turn on. That's where our digestion turns on. That's where our immune response turns on. So we want to spend a good deal of time in that calmer state. Why is this important? Well, for us as human beings, as moms, we want to be able to do that connecting. We want to be able to feel that connection with our babies, with our partners, with our families, and our community. We want to be able to have a strong immune response, a strong digestive system, a body that's in balance. And when we don't get the opportunity to calm ourselves from that stress response, we lose that. We really start to lose that, and we start to feel disconnected. We start to feel disconnected from our partners and our babies, and like, who even cares about what's happening in the outside world, right? So it's important to be able to have that tool set to understand what's going on and to be able to navigate it. For our babies, it's important because we're their example. Right? We teach them by being. We don't teach them by telling. So, my children, I've noticed, really mirror a lot of what I'm doing as far as navigating that continuum. When I'm on my game and I'm taking time for myself and I'm learning how to practicing down regulating and staying in that calmer state where I can be proactive instead of reactive, my kids start to do the same thing. They're more adept at it. They practice it. When I'm moving to the other end, which happens, and it happens frequently, it's a practice. Everybody's practicing this. When I move to that other end and I'm being reactive and I'm feeling overwhelmed and I'm feeling stressed, and my kids do the same thing, right? So it's really important as mothers that we oxygen mask, right? We take care of ourselves, and we learn how to do the dance with that regulation, up and down regulation.
And I love that for so many reasons. And one of them is that part of how little moms understand how the stress of being a mom can be impacting other areas of their life. So we hear a lot of moms saying, I am eating healthy, but I cannot release this weight, or I am taking care of me, but I'm being sick like every other week, or I don't feel that connection with my partner, and we are actually thinking of splitting out. All that happened within the first 18 to 24 months of a baby coming in. And then what is sad for me is that a lot of times nobody look behind that and say, what is your level of stress? Because if you are in that stress response every day of every week of every month, then your digestive system is shutting down. You are not feeling safe, so you are storing fat. You are actually, your immune system is like, we don't have time to get immune system, we are in survival mode. So every single little tiny of bacteria and virus will take you into the bed. So it is so powerful for the moms knowing that sometimes go into like a little bit more that woo woo, like, oh, so you are saying that just stress can cause all that? Yes, that is what exactly what we both are saying. Stress can be a beach on your well-being and how you are. And then going back into what Nichole started the program with, sometimes you're like, but how I cannot change my stress, my baby's crying, things are not going like I was expecting. Sometimes just having a practice of, like she's saying, breathing and breathe throughout the day will help you to go that. Because I want to talk with Nichole about this one, but I hear her a long time ago saying that you cannot be in a reactive state, in a sympathetic state, fight or fight, and still also be doing deep breathing. Like those two things are like car circuit, like they will not match in your brain. So if they are happening at the same time, one of them will win. And I want to let Nichole to go a little bit more into that. But the other one with that, with the babies and how they learn from us, is that we were talking before, is they were inside of you, and they have cells of you and you have cells of them. So even when they are outside of you, there is a very strong connection energetically from you and your babies. And then they learn, like Nichole was saying, they if you they co-regulate, more regulated and as more stable you are, as more they are able to not only mirror and copy, but also interiorize that. First, it is okay to have all the emotions, so there is not bad emotions, good emotions. It's good that we are able to talk about them and say, hey, yeah, mommy was in the red zone and I'm sorry, and this is how we think that we can do it better. But then the third one is allow them to not be in that fire response all the time. That is a skill that they are going to need at school, at college, at work, because unfortunately we are in a society that make profit of us being in that fire response all the time. So all the skills that we can give them now are going to help them for the rest of their life, because the rest of their life they're going to have society trying to keep them on that fire response mode, because that is where the society and economy and the big corporations can make profit of when you're in that state. Because like Nicole was saying, you are not thinking clearly, you are not having your own thoughts. So that is so powerful. Nicole, let's gonna talk about that, of like what happened when you are in that high reactive response and then you introduce deep breathing. What happened in the brain and which of these two will win if you are able to do it?
Yeah. Really what you're doing is you're creating a conversation. Right? You're creating a conversation with the body at a physiological level. And we have the amygdala, which is the part of the brain that mediates this stress response. It's on level 11, right? It's going, and you're and you're feeling it in your body. When you start to introduce the deep breathing, the brain goes, wait. I thought we were in danger. I thought something really bad was happening. And so there's a little bit of a moment where the brain kind of goes, all right, so are we really in danger here, or are we safe enough that we can breathe slowly and let the body relax? And there will be that gap there, right, where the brain is trying to figure it out. If you are if the brain is amenable at that point to down regulating, introducing that deep breathing will help to do that, will help to shift you toward a calmer state. There are times, it's not a panacea, right? So it's not a cure-all. The deep breathing sometimes doesn't work. And it's because we're in such a tight state, we're so stressed that it's just not, the brain's gonna go, we're not doing this, right? So what I like to do with people when we're as a secondary tool, right? It's like, oh, I'm really feeling this. I'm feeling that it's not happening right now. There's resistance here to that calming. What you can do instead is acknowledge at a really deep level the tightness, the stress, the energy that's moving through the body in that sympathetic state. So doing something as silly as just like shaking yourself out, or getting up and dancing, or doing something physical to help that energy move, is a really great way to acknowledge what the brain is telling you in that moment. The brain is saying we're too activated, and learning how to say, okay, all right, breathing's not working, so we're going to do this instead, and moving with that energy, and then inching yourself toward that slowed breathing, that calming. That's one way to help shift yourself in that moment. But the thing is, we don't want to force anything, right? This is all about acknowledging and honoring the way in which your body and your mind are trying to help you move through your life, right? So it's really approaching this with a lot of tenderness, just like when we notice the emotions that are coming up for us in the moment. When I'm feeling rage in the moment with my kids, and it's just like, I want to like just like throw dishes or something, acknowledging that there's nothing wrong with the emotion, right? That's there as a signal, as a benevolent signal, something tender that my body and my mind are trying to tell me. Usually for me, it's all, you've taken on too much right now in this moment. You're feeling overwhelmed. You have a need that's underneath here. I have a need for rest. I have a need for connection. I have a need for Sometimes just it's a glass of water. Sometimes I need to pee. Sometimes it's like I'm hungry. Oh my gosh, it's 3 o'clock. I haven't eaten yet today. You know? So starting to approach whatever it is that you're feeling with real tenderness and then meeting the need that's underneath. Right? And the same thing happens when that deep breathing just isn't helping you in that moment. Right? Meeting that with tenderness and saying, okay, then we just roll with what I need. I'm going to shake it out. I'm going to dance. I'm going to jump up and down. I'm going to go for a walk.
And what Nicole said is like she's giving us different layers. So the first tool that we all have is breathing. And then that is like easy, fast, automatically start doing some deep breathing, long exhales. And then she's also acknowledging like not every situation that will work. Now, if that doesn't work, if you start breathing and you are not feeling better, if you are not feeling calmer, then the next thing that you can do is actually allow the energy to flow through your body. Because actually, I was, and I don't know if you hear this, Nicole, but I was having a discussion with another guest, and we were talking about the research that is saying that if you don't fight an emotion will only last in your body for around 90 to 120 seconds to go through, no matter what the emotion is. If they stay because we start actually fighting, and when we are fighting, we actually are not letting it go through. But just allowing that and shake and dance, so that is wonderful. And one of the things that I was thinking when you were talking is that part of the deep breathing with the fire fight response. And I think that all of us as females can remember a scenario where we were at night alone in a parking lot or in our house, and we hear something and we start getting scared somebody was following us, and then we start actually feeling that we were in danger. And I want everybody to actually go back to that memory and remember how you were breathing. You were not just like walking down and say like, ah, the night is so beautiful. No, you start actually breathing very shallow. You start actually walking a little fast. You actually start getting a lot more sensitive in what you are hearing because you are in that fight or flight response. And that is what Nicole was saying. And that is why the brain breaks that, because if in the middle of that you start saying like, then the brain is like, oh, what? Really? Okay, so the tiger is not going to eat us. And that is important that you know, not only because a lot of people say like, oh, just breathe. Yeah, just breathe. That is important that you understand why, what is happening in your brain, how that breathing is going to break the pattern, how that breathing is going to actually give you, like Nicole was saying, that gap in time to allow you to center back and choose. And one of the things that I want to talk with you about this that blows my mind always is that I hear all the time that motherhood is the hardest job in the planet. Like, I don't think that I found one single person that can tell me that there is another job that is harder than motherhood. But then is the job where we allow the person that is doing the job the less help to go through the job. And then it's something like a coach. Like, how many moms had a coach? Oh no, the first thing is like, oh no, I have all the resources, all the energy, all the time for my kids, but for me, no, I don't need a coach. I should know what to do. I'm a mom. Should be natural for me. And then what I start thinking about is, what about a CEO? Can you imagine a CEO saying, "Oh, I'm the CEO of this company and I'm in charge of all the responsibility, but I don't need anybody to help me. I'm going to figure it out by myself. I don't need a coach. I don't need somebody to help me with this." Well, I will tell you something. The board of director of that company is going to kick out that CEO, because if that CEO is trying to do everything by himself, he's going to make really big mistakes. And that is part of what I was thinking with the oxygen mask, and I want to talk with you about that, into how we can align and be awesome with tools like the breath, but also tap into that source of we don't need to do it all. And that if we are congruent with we are doing the hardest job in the world, then how we can be congruent and saying, and then I need to have a team around me, and it's okay to reach out and say, hey, I need help here, I need some coaching here, I need somebody here to help me on this, and take off that patriarchal bullshit. I hope that is allowed to say in a live TV show, patriarchal nonsense about if you're a mom, you need to figure it out all by yourself, and if not, you're not a good mom because you are meant and you are designed to do this, and that's actually not true. So I want to hear your thoughts about that.
Yeah, there's so many layers to this, Joanna. You know how I feel about it. That we are not meant as human beings to go at it alone, and we are absolutely not meant to go at it alone as mothers. We are supposed to be in community with other people. Human beings are social animals. We are actually designed that way. So when people say, "Oh, you're designed for this. You're made for this," yeah, yeah, and I'm doing a pretty good job for what I was designed for. But you know what? I don't have this whole other aspect that I'm, from a basic biological level, designed to have. We are designed to be in community with other women, in a larger community with dads and brothers, and all the men around as well. And we don't have that in our culture, right? We're not set up that way necessarily in our culture. So when people talk about being designed, right, for this, yeah, we are, but we're missing part of it. So we have to create that for ourselves, and we have to be willing as women, as the leaders in our families, to say, I need help, right? I need help, and I need people around me that will support me in this huge endeavor of raising these human beings. And so that looks really different for everyone, right? So we each have to figure out how to create our families in our own way. We have to create our communities in our own way. And Joanna, you're so right when you say we would look at a CEO who's trying to do this and think that they were nuts, think that they were driving their company into the ground if they didn't have help, if they didn't hire the right people to do the right jobs, right? If they didn't continue to educate themselves, if they didn't have every CEO I know has a coach. you
No
know
one, multiple.
yeah, multiple coaches for multiple things, right? You wouldn't have an athlete trying to perform at their best without having coaches, without having a team around them. If we want to aspire to greatness in whatever we do, we have a team. No one person goes it alone. And as women, because we don't have the kind of community, right, that we were designed to have, we have to really take on that responsibility of creating that team for ourselves. It's vitally important. I mean, I have people, I have you, I have, I have lots of people in my life that I depend on, including coaches, including mentors, for me as a mother. And then also for me in my working life. But for some reason, to have it as a mother, it just seems like that's unusual, but it shouldn't be, because it is the hardest job. And it is
Absolutely.
also, I believe it's the most important.
Yeah. And part of that is, and we're going to be talking about a couple of myths about this, and bring back ideas, because um it's all about your priorities and your own sense of worth. And I want to talk about a little bit about that from the yoga perspective and the different bodies, on how we can help these mamas to go back into that feeling of self-worth and self-love, because it start from there. If you are not feeling worthy, and if you're not feeling that you deserve the help, then you're going to find every single reason to not have it. Like, you don't have enough resources, you don't have enough money, you need to take care of the baby and the baby's needs. But the reality is, when you start on that perspective, and when you were saying, when Nichole was saying something like, think about your motherhood journey as you are the CEO of your family. And then I start thinking about that. And then as soon as you decide that you deserve it, I promise you, things synchronicity and things are going to happen to allow you to go there. And then for the ones that are moms to be, I hope that you listen to me when I'm telling you this. Instead of asking for the snoo bassinet that costs $1,600, instead of asking for all these things for your baby that your baby probably will not need and not even enjoy as much in the first couple of months, ask for gifts that help you to build a team. Like that was one of the my favorite tools for when you're a mom to be, or in their first couple of years birthday, instead of asking for gifts that your baby probably have already way too much because of the society that we live, ask for things that will help you to build that team. Say, hey, for this baby shower, I'm actually looking into have some postpartum doula and some mom coaching after, and then any gift that you can give me towards that will be very appreciated. Will be tenfold more impactful for you and your baby that expensive crepe or that onesie that is number 25 that your baby will probably will grow up from it without even you use it. But let's gonna talk about first how we can tap into that self-worth and self-love, and from moving, like you, yeah, the title of your talk, from moving from Harriet and Hangel to Align and Awesome, and how the practice of self-worth and self-love is the first step and how we can start working towards that, knowing that we as females were taught that we can never be first, that our job is putting others first, that is taking care of the family, is taking care of the husband, is taking care of the parents. How we can start shifting that into saying, no, I have to be okay, I have to be strong, I have to be well so that I can take care of everything else.
Oh, so as you're talking, I'm being reminded of growing up, and one of my favorite books growing up was the story The Giving Tree by Silverstein. And it was one of my favorites because I thought, oh, how beautiful, this tree gives everything to this little boy, and in the end gives everything. The tree is just a stump, and she gave away everything to the little boy so he could be happy. And it really played into, I think, the way, much of the way I was raised, which was that, as a mother, you just completely give everything, and there's nothing left on the table for you. And if there is, then something that's not right, right? You should be giving that to your children. That's like selfish, right? Um, and that it was shame around that idea of doing for yourself. And then, as I got older and I started my family, I was realizing, like, I've got nothing left. And I don't have anything to give right now because I've depleted myself completely. And that idea of the oxygen mask, right? When you're on a plane, they tell you first always to put the oxygen mask on yourself before you go to help anyone else. Because if you don't have oxygen, you're not going to be thinking straight. You're really going to be of no use to anyone else, right? If you're not capable, then you just become another person that needs taken care of. And the same thing happens in women's lives when we're trying to take care of our families and we haven't put that oxygen mask on for ourselves. We give and we give and we give, and suddenly we start spiraling and we're not doing the right things and we're making more problems for ourselves because we're just reacting and we're struggling. And then, eventually we break because we don't have anything left. And that fear that you've always had, right? That shameful idea in your head that, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be enough. I'm not going to be able to take care of everybody else. Well, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy because you don't have anything left to give. And you do have to become a person that it gets taken care of, which, by the way, there's no shame in. When you get to that point, which I will be completely honest, I have gotten to that point as a mother of 4 kids, got to that point as running a company, um, uh, employing a bunch of people, trying to run my household with a newborn. I had a newborn at the time, and I got to the point where I was not taking care of myself at all. And I got completely depleted. Right. And what I realized in that moment was I have a choice to make. Do I want to live the kind of life that I want my children to live, where they care for themselves, where they're as tender to themselves as they would be to anyone else? Or do I want to keep pretending like somehow I'm the exception to the rule? And then I need to deplete myself like that giving tree to the point where there's nothing left. And I had to make that decision, right? And I said, well, I guess I'm going to try and see what it's like to take care of myself, to really kind of like walk my talk and create a way to nourish myself first and let the overflow be what I offer everyone in a really sustainable and kind way. So how do we start doing that for ourselves as mothers? I mean, I think the first thing that I worked on was listening to the self-talk and starting to hear the way that I spoke to myself as opposed to the way that I wish to and try to speak to other people. Do I uplift myself in the same way that I do for others? Do I offer myself the same kindness and tenderness that I do for others? Or do I hold myself to some kind of different standard and think that it's okay to be critical and cruel? Right? And in those moments where I do notice that happening, how can I begin to shift and say, okay, there's that voice again. I hear you. Right? So I think that's one of the things that I work on a little bit with the folks that I work with is that when you take the time to start to hear that voice and to acknowledge it, and just like we would with our children, instead of getting angry or yelling, right? The ideal is to say, okay, all right, I hear what you're saying. What's underneath that? What's the need? Right? Let me show you some tenderness. Let me show you some love. And we start to learn how to talk to ourselves differently. We start to learn how to talk to ourselves like we would our best friend, like we would our kid, like we would with anybody else that we loved. And I think that that's the first step, is learning how to address that self-talk. And then we start to get into like, what is it that I need? Asking yourself that question. What do I need? Right? It's what do I need right now? And giving yourself permission to ask the question and then respond to it like, oh, well, I need 5 minutes. I need to go pee. I need I need to go take a shower. I need some alone time. Right? I need to pamper myself a little bit. I need to go see my friends. All those kinds of things. Like it sounds so simple, but it's actually it's a hard thing to do when you're not used to it.
Absolutely. And when you were talking about that, you growing up, one of the things that was so amazing for me when 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when I was in Africa and I was able to spend some time with the Hadza tribe. And the Hadza tribe is one of the oldest lineages of humanity. And one day we were honey hunting. So the female chief, they have a male and a female chief, go figure, because they know that the male chief cannot know everything. So they have the two figures, and the female chief lead us into honey hunting. And then we start walking, trying to hunt for some honey. And then finally, after a couple of hours of walking, she found some or they found some. And then there was this big celebration. They opened this tree and they got the, like this beautiful thing of honey. And then the female chief, of course, all the children came in because they knew about honey. She fed all the mamas first. She didn't give 1 gram of honey to the children. And for us Westerns, that like didn't feel completely right, because we were like, the children are asking for it. Like, how dare you of eating before your children? But she, in her anxious wisdom, was making sure that her mamas were taken care first. She feed the mamas, she feed the honey to the mamas, and then when all the mamas were taken care of, what was left, she shared with the children. But was such a powerful lesson about what you are saying is she knew that if she just give it to the children first, and for some reason there was not enough for the mamas will be the ones that will have to produce the milk for the babies that were still nursing. The mamas will be the ones that will have to have the energy to carry the kids back to the camp in the way back. So things like that actually remind us that we need to actually start changing that disc, that record that we were having on. It is okay to take care of me first, because as better I am and as stronger I am, as better I'm going to be able to take care for my precious little baby or my precious little family. Nicole, this has been amazing, and I know that we're getting close to the end. I'm probably gonna ask you to come back later because I have so many other things to ask you, and ask you to share with the community of the moms. But now, to close up, talking about appreciation and gratitude and self-love and self-worth, what would be your advice for the mama that is hearing us right now, the mama that is in the second trimester, the third trimester, in their fourth trimester, or even that is with a toddler? What would be your advice to that mom, first time mom, second mom, third mom, as a mom and as a coach? What you could tell to them?
Invest in yourself. Take care of yourself. Nourish yourself. And know that you are worthy of every bit of it, because you are the source. You're the source of love and tenderness and growth and joy in your family. So honor that, and do what you need to do to keep yourself nourished and healthy and well and joyful.
Thank you, Nicole. Nicole, for the moms that want to connect with you, that want to hear and learn a little bit more about you, where they can reach out to you, where they can connect with you, where they can go and find you.
Well, you can find me through my website, which is mindfulheartwellness.com. I'm also on Facebook, Mindful Heart Wellness, and Instagram.
Okay. So you hear it, Mama. If you resonate with what Nicole was saying, if you were intrigued by some of the things that she just mentioned, we just were grasping the surface here. So go and follow her on Facebook and Instagram, Mindful Heart Center.
Mindful Heart Wellness.
Mindful Heart Wellness in Facebook and Instagram, or her website. Nicole, thank you so much for this delightful series. As always, it's been, like I always say, chicken soup for the soul, to be able to talk in a raw, authentic way with another mom, with another female, that reinforce first that we are never alone. Second, that there is always an option. And then third, that is our job together to normalize motherhood, to help each other, and to allow us to thrive how we deserve. So I love you. Thank you so much. Mwah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joanna.
Okay, guys, and ladies and mamas, this show can also be heard on the Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out www.spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and leave it.